Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How's life today? I hope you all in a good condition. Well, we are from Group 6. Today we would like to presenting our materials about communication and interpersonal skill. But before that, let us introduce ourselves. There are 3 members in this group. The first one is Mas Danang Kusuma Adi. His student number is 17013. And then the second one is me myself, Umi Soliha Jamil. My student number is 18003. And then the last one is Rahmadona Istifara. Her student number is 18016. Okay, before we start our material today, I would like to show you about the agenda of this presentation. There are 8 agenda for this presentation. The first one is the definition of communication. The second one is the component of communication. The third one is the purpose and the function of communication. The fourth is the use of studying communication science. The fifth is communication within the organization. The sixth is presentation technique. The seventh is presentation preparation. And the last one is preparation. Okay, let's get started. Okay, the first one is the definition of communication. Communication comes from Latin language with the word communis, which means to share or belong together. Overall, communication is the process of delivering a message by one person to another to inform related information or express opinions which are carried out orally or in writing. Okay, let's move on to the next materials. Okay, the next materials is about communication component. There are 8 components of communication. The first one is communication environment. In communication environment has 3 dimensions. The first one is physical. Physical is the space where the communication takes place in a real way. And then the second one is socio-psychological. Socio-psychological is the structure of status relations between the parties involved, the roles people play, and the culture rules of the society in which people communicate. And then the third is temporal or time. It means that the time at which the communication takes place. Then the next is receiver source. In the receiver source, there are 2 parts. The first one is communicator. Communicator is the person who acts as the sender of the message, or what we usually call the person who first invites communication. And then the second one is communicant. Communicant is people who receive message from the communicator, or what we usually call the interlocutor. And the third one is encoding-decoding. In encoding-decoding, there are 2 parts. The first one is encoder. Encoder is the act of producing a message, for example, speaking or writing. And then the second one is decoder. Decoder is the act of receiving message, for example, reading or hearing the message that are given. And then the next is communication competence. Communication competence refers to a person's ability to communicate effectively. These competencies include things such as knowledge about the role of the environment or the context in influencing the content. The next is message. In message, there is verbal, for example, oral or written. But in message are not only in the verbal form, but there are also non-verbal ones. For example, using gestures and facial expression. And then the 6th is channel. In channel, there are 4 types. The first one is sound channel. In sound channel, there are interaction. There must be face-to-face, talking, and listening. And then the second one is visual channel. In visual channel is give and receive bodily cues in communicating. And then the third is olfactory channel. In olfactory channel, there are communicating. There will definitely be smells. And then the last one is tactile channel. In tactile channel, communicating sometimes we touch the other person when we are talking, either intentionally or accidentally. Then the seventh is feedback. There are two types. The first one is feedback from ourselves, and then the next is feedback from other people. For example, frowns or smiles, and nods or headshakes. Okay, the last is noise. There are three types in noise. The first one is physic. When we are talking, it turns out that other people also invite to talk, or what we usually call cutting other people's conversation. And then the second one is psychologist. Sometimes we have prepared what we are going to say, even we really memorize it, but when we are communicating, we suddenly forget. And then the last one is semantic. Sometimes when we have communicate, there will definitely people who misinterpret what we say. Okay, without any further ado, let's move on to the next materials. The next is about the objective and the function of communication. There are five. The first objective and function is to provide information to others, for example, related to announcements, invitation, and etc. And then the second one is to assess a pattern of thinking, such as feedback, revenue responses, budget evaluation, plan appraisal, and so on. And then the third one is to direct and be directed. And the fourth, to influence and be influenced. For example, motivation, persuasion, stimulation, and so on. And then the last is contain several incidental or neutral functions which do not directly affect the achievement of goals and relationship in social interactions. Okay, let's move on to the next materials. Okay, the next materials is about usefulness of studying communication science. According to Ruben and Stewart in 2005, states that the reason for studying communication science are: the first one is communication is fundamental in our life because our daily lives communication plays a very important role. No activity is carried out without communication. And then the second one is communication is a complex activity because communication is not an easy activity. To achieve communication competence, understanding, and skills are needed so that communication can be effective. And then the third is communication is vital for an effective position because to achieve success from a certain position, communication has a very important role. If someone has good at communicating, other people will be interested in working with him. And then the fourth is a higher education doesn't guarantee good communication competence. Communication does not occur in the form of only verbal but also non-verbal. But there are still many people who do not have good communication skills, even though these people have high education, thus resulting in a failure in interacting with other humans. Okay, and the last one is communication is popular because many fields of modern communication today focus on the study of message. There is also a relationship between communication with other professional fields, including law, business, information, education, computer science, and so on. I think that's all the material from me. And then the next materials will be delivered by Rahmadona Istifara.
Well, my name is Rahmadona Istifara and my last two number is 0016. So, today I will explain you about communication in organization. In the organization, there are two types of communication that occur. The first one is macro. Macro communication is communication in environmental, organization, and its surroundings. And the second one is micro communication. Micro communication include member, superiors, subordinates. We said that there are formal and informal communication. So, what is formal and what is informal communication? Formal communication is official communication that goes through a network of organizational structure. And informal communication, information obtained through the gradient pays more attention to what someone say or hears than what is issued by the holder of power. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Let's discuss about communication up, down, horizontally, and cross. The first one is upward communication. Upward communication is an organization can be interpreted that information flow from a lower level to a higher level. Analysis and research in upward communication states that supervisors and managers must receive information in the form of information that tells what subordinates are doing, explaining the problems, giving suggestions or ideas for improvement and its units, also expressing how the thoughts and feelings of subordinates about work, college, and the organization. And the second one is downward communication. Downward communication within an organization means that information flows from position of higher authority to those of lower authority. Information communicated from superiors to subordinates, for example, information on how to do work. And then the third one, horizontal communication. This kind of communication allows managers at the same level in an organization to more effectively coordinate their activities, such as staff meetings and face-to-face conferences. And the last one kind of communication is cross. This communication is the delivery of information from colleagues who cross the boundaries of the example of feelings in order to foster togetherness. Okay, let's move to the next topic about nonverbal communication. Communication based on factors other than verbal symbols, such as body language, nonverbal symbols, inactivity statement expressed by voice, example handshake, and use of time, or usually we call it slang language. It's sign language, such as A, B, or C, like that. It is called communication nonverbal. You must know 5 rules of effective communication. The 5 infallible laws of effective communication summarized in one word that reflects the essence of communication itself, namely what is reach? The first one is respect. We must respect speaker and we must listening. And second one is empathy. Empathy means that we are understanding. And the third one is audible. The fourth one, clarity, and the last one is humble. Those are the key of effective communication. Okay, let's move to the next slide. It's about presentation technique. Before we know more deeper about this technique, I want to explain you about what is presentation. Presentation is oral communication or a speech that has been prepared and delivered in a formal manner. Presentation can be in the form of progress report, explanation of new products, services to clients, lectures, training, job interviews, scientific seminars, business, and so on. Okay, the next material will be delivered by Danang.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Danang Kusumadi and my studio number is O13. And today's presentation is about the presentation preparation. I have 8 steps toward a successful presentation. The first point is a listener analysis. Before the speaker thinks about the title of the presentation, make a slide and even writes an outline, it is necessary to explore the contents of the listener head. Some important questions that journalists usually use for a reportage are very helpful for the speaker to understand the listeners. And the second point is a location overview. For a speaker or presenter, a site review is indispensable prior to a business presentation. The site inspection will answer the question where will the presentation be held, what is considered in the site inspection, among others, is the availability of a sound system, room layout, setting, arrangement, podium, position, screen, and etc. And the last is room condition, air conditioning, lighting, or etc. And the next is third point. Third point is a framework and arrangement. Compile a mind map of the selected topic. This is a way to summarize a theme or main point in a book. And point 4 is research and application. This section focuses more on the speaker or presenter review of the previous 3 steps, namely audience analysis, site review, and presentation framework. And the 5th point is script or notes writing. In this preparation, it is compiling a paper or complete text, main ideas, in the form of PowerPoint presentation, transparent sheets, handouts, and postcard size paper, video presentation, and etc. And the 6th point is serving with tools. To improve the delivery of message, audible third law, presenters must master the use of visual aids such as slides, overhead projectors, LCD, in-focus projector that are directly connected to a computer or notebook. It is easier for most people to grasp information in the form of visual image than to listen to it. And the 7th point is practice and exercise. Techniques to be considered in practice and practice. Sound visibility behavior, be yourself, confidence, target, don't have too much information, do not too be long. And the last point is presentation or delivery. Public speaking is an art of communicating. In communicating, the speaker or presenter needs to understand the 5 important components or elements that must be considered. And the 5 elements are the sender of the message, the message that is sent, how the message is sent, delivery channel or medium, the receiver of the message, receiver, and feedback. And this section is the final stage of preparing a presentation. Therefore, the previous presentation stage must be thoroughly understood and mastered before the speaker arrives at the location and time for the presentation. Okay, and the last point in this presentation is a presentation. In essence, making an effective presentation requires the ability to adjust body posture, touching or approaching in front of the audience, and the ability to use tools like an LCD, computer, or etc. Preparation, dealing with anxiety, delivery, and question and answer techniques. Okay, thank you for your attention, and sorry for our mistake. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.